Next up in the spotlight, we have Trish, Nicola, Terry, and Ian.
These are all brand new. There's nobody that's in policy.
Okay, first question from the chamber is, can you share one new idea, or opportunity you feel would help improve the Coquitlam economy? What can we do differently that would improve the Coquitlam economy? And I'm going to start down here with you.
Yes, awesome. I actually have the second plank of my platform. I would like it to be the first, but you can't be a council candidate and not have the housing crisis as your first plank. The second plank of my platform is to bring an entertainment district to the city, because Vancouver is already chronically unfun, but we send our kids out there to play anyway and worry about, the fentanyl crisis and getting back on a SkyTrain that stops running before the bars out there close. So are we encouraging drunk driving? It sure sounds like it. There are so many places in the city that are underutilized or left empty. I'm thinking about the Sears building as an example. These are right in the middle of this downtown that we've been trying to create as a commercial zone, and we need to have tons of fun things to do. There are lots of fun things to do in the city, but they're not easy to access, so transit has to be an important part of that, or simply just even knowing what they are. You come to Coquitlam, what's there to do? How do you find out? It's not really that easy. There needs to be a combined effort on accessing these things, knowing what they are, so that we can further promote them and bring the things to actually do. Thank you.
Great question, and Ian hit the nail on the head. We need more vibrancy. We're doing our city center area plan right now, and we're hearing over and over and over again, we need more restaurants, more bars. I would love to see more craft breweries come into Coquitlam. I felt kind of guilty. A bunch of friends wanted to meet up with me not that long ago, and we ended up going to Brewers Row in Port Moody. I wanted to go somewhere in Coquitlam. There wasn't anywhere to go. More and more people are living in smaller homes, so they're not having people over as often to their own houses. They want to go somewhere else and sit on a patio. So we need more vibrant patios, restaurants, craft breweries. We need more bigger employers, big tech industries, big employers. But before we can have those employers, we need more people more places for the young people to live. We need more rental, we need more affordable housing so the employees can live here, so they can work at the new jobs that we're bringing in. But that's what I think we need. We're excellent at festivals and bringing people in for that, but we need more vibrancy in our streets.
Thanks, Nicole.
Yes, so I think we have a huge opportunity at the moment to invest in clean energy technology, and this is something that we can do in partnership with the provincial and federal governments. We have huge spaces like the abandoned Sears building that was mentioned, where we can be manufacturing clean energy technologies. We can be shipping those overseas. We can be creating a booming industry here in Coquitlam that will provide an area for folks to live, work, and play here. Because that's a common theme that's been talked about tonight, is having jobs for people here at home so that they're not commuting downtown for entertainment, as Ian brought up, or for jobs. We can create that industry here at home, and we have so much space available to us that we really need to be investing in creating office space, as others have pointed out, and spaces for other small businesses to move to the city to create these opportunities.
Thank you, Mike. So a lot of the conversations that happened earlier were about taxes and how we can reduce the homeowners' taxes. One way is through economic development. And one thing that we have not maximized on is leveraging on the problem that Vancouver has. There is shortage of space in Vancouver. We can attract the tech companies that cannot find space in Vancouver to come into Coquitlam. We have a problem with land in Coquitlam, but however, we can build going up. And going up fits perfectly with the tech companies. So what we have to do is to make Coquitlam attractive for the businesses that can come in. Not the manufacturing, because we don't have space for them. But we sure enough can attract the tech companies. 4 years ago, on this very stage, we were talking about we already have fiber optics in Coquitlam. But we haven't done much to maximize on that fiber optics as well. We really need to attract businesses such as the tech, like I said, to come in. And we need to have an anchor in Coquitlam, and then the other businesses will follow.
Anybody else want to add anything else quickly on that question? We all good? Okay, question getting lots of votes up there. Is there a particular city service that you would prioritize further resources for? And if there is a particular service that you would do that for, how would you pay for it? So we're going to start out, Terry, go back that way. Terry.
Many people might not think of this as a service, but planning and development. It's come up, we have a lot of growth, we have a lot of work for our planners to do, and a lot of the complaints about the time that it takes is nothing. Even with overtime and all that, there's not enough people. One planner leaves to go to another city, and we're left. The planners are in very high demand right now. I believe we need more planning staff to address the growth that's coming. 1 million more people are coming to our region by 2040. I think we're all aware of our growing city, and I would get development to pay for it. Factor in another, I know that sounds like it adds more cost to the price of housing and development, but development should pay for development, and we need more planning staff to do the work, to speed things up, to get these rentals built, to get the below market housing built, to get these creative solutions that we were incentivizing that are coming to our city. So we need more planning and development staff.
Thank you. Nicola?
I think that we need to be investing in creating infrastructure that's going to support us into the future. We have a huge boom, for instance, in electric vehicles, and we don't have any charging stations to support them. I know that the city's starting to look into this, but it's too late, in my opinion. And we need to really provide that service here, because when I go to City Hall and I go to our council meetings, I see a lineup of electric vehicles to use the charging stations. Now, where those are located is going to dictate how they're paid for. They can be either paid for through payment for parking, or they can be paid for by the city directly, as is done with block heaters in other provinces, or they can be paid for by developers in terms of getting those installed in new developments that are coming to the city. And one of the things that I really hate to see is council approving 8,000 new parking spaces with no wiring for electric vehicles. That's something that I've seen Craig Hodge push for. That's something that I've been supportive of, and that's something that the city hasn't done, unfortunately.
Trish?
One of the things that's happening here in Coquitlam as well with businesses is that there's no recycling. I don't know if many of you know, but there's no recycling within companies in Coquitlam. Right now, I have a friend that works at a company, and she has to take the recycling because she feels so guilty to put it in the trash. She takes that recycling home so she can recycle it. I have another person that I met at the doorstep that she had liquid waste that she wanted to recycle. She called the city. She was given 2 places to call. She called the places, and the places say they do not take liquid hazardous material to recycle. So she still has it in her garage. If we want to have a vibrant city that is vibrant and also is recycling, we need to provide the places for it. So I think we need a second place to have for recycling rather than just the one on United Way, and we need to make sure we encourage the businesses to recycle as well. If they're not going to recycle, then we need to charge for them, and the money to pay for that will come from the fees that they can charge if they don't recycle.
In one word, health. But to expand on that a little bit more, we have these fabulous Riverview lands that are tragically underused. I feel like I've come late into the game to do something like that, but it is there, and that's easy to work with, whether that's partnering up with health organizations that are dying to get more services to the people. But personally, I would like to see something, a passion project of mine is to promote sexual health amongst all of our citizens. It has been tragic trying to see where these services are. They are typically scattered across the Lower Mainland, open for 2 nights a week for about 2 or 3 hours in really random places sometimes. They're not accessible at all and are leading to the overall decline in the health of our young people and our all ages, of course. But I think opening up a 24-hour sexual health clinic in the city is going to bring this huge population of people who are underserviced and help attack the stigma that is keeping people away from these services in the first place.
Thanks, Ian.
Can I?
Yeah, really, 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Just so everyone knows, our current city council has been advocating very, very strongly towards repurposing the Riverview lands as a campus of mental health. We need more services for mental health treatment. We have an opioid crisis going. We need more of that from the province, more funding. I've just finished up a stint on the 3030 Gordon Emergency Task Force, and one of our big outcomes of that is pretty much demanding more supports and more funding for mental health and health-related funding. And we're using the Riverview lands and preserving the Arboretum at the same time.
Okay, so good segue to my next question is discuss strategies for the homelessness community. How are we dealing with that in Coquitlam? And we'll start with Nicola.
Well, I think I'm going to have to echo a lot of what Ian and Terry have said here, which is that we need to be pushing for Riverview lands to be used to support mental health and well-being and addictions. We also need to, as a city, I think, put forward an initiative for public awareness to reduce the stigma around mental health and addictions, because there still is a stigma. We talk about it regularly, but folks are being denied employment, they're being denied services, they're being denied places to live simply because they are struggling with addictions and mental health. And that's something that we have the ability as a city to help with, and we have the ability to push for better services on the Riverview lands.
Okay, Trish?
When it comes to homelessness, it's truly a complex problem. We cannot just go and put a bandage on it. We have to look at the whole cycle to see what is it that's getting people there. And one has already been covered through mental health. And the other one is the problems that we have with house affordability. Most of the people are one paycheck away from being homeless. That's all it takes. And for a lot of people as well, because the jobs that they're getting, especially the foreigners like me that come into Canada that were not born here, you come here and you're being underpaid. When you're underpaid and you're living on that little amount, all it takes is just one little hiccup and you end up homeless. So we have to address the affordability, we have to address making sure that the process to validate certifications for people that are coming in is not so complex. We have to address the issue of mental health. So there's so many aspects of it that come to play, so we have a lot of work to work on that.
Okay. Ian?
This for me is one of the main reasons I get into politics. If you've ever been down to downtown Vancouver, or even a lot of places in Coquitlam now, you see the homeless people there, and I would love to be able to help, but I'm a struggling millennial. I can't give you my money. I can give you my service here on City Council. I believe that it is absolutely deplorable that a nation as rich as Canada has any homeless people at all, but that being said, we do have this population which is even more frustratingly the senior population and the youth population that is growing in that homeless sector, which is just, these are the most marginalized people of our society. Some have given their whole lives, and some are about to be able to give their whole lives to this city, and they have nowhere to live. I believe that this is a regional issue, of course. I am so gung-ho to work with the other municipalities to get them on board with the housing first strategy. It costs far more money to have these people living on the streets than it does to house them. We can't solve it as Coquitlam alone because there are so many homeless people in this region, but we gotta work with everyone here. It is far too late in the game to not be doing this.
Thank you.
A lot of what I was going to say has already been said, but the number one thing I think that we have to address is the stigma. I'm very proud of our council. We recently had to approve a temporary use permit. Unfortunately, the 3030 Gordon shelter is at its max, and 3 churches in our community have offered to do the cold wet weather mat program again. There's a lot of stigma, even though they're coming in at 10 p.m. and leaving at 7 a.m. and people didn't want these people in their neighborhoods. It's a Band-Aid solution, but in the meantime, these people are getting a warm meal and a bed at night. We need to keep up our good relationships with the community, the 3030 Homeless Shelter, the RCMP, the bylaws, the neighboring communities. Keep pushing for Riverview, but we need more housing. The homeless issue has been exacerbated because of no vacancy, not enough affordable housing, and the opioid addiction crisis, and not enough supports for mental illness. So it's a very, very complex issue. I'm proud of our city for donating the land, for getting 3030 built. I'm proud of our community for allowing us to put some of these Band-Aid solutions in place while we get the housing built, but there's lots more to be done.
Thanks, Terry. And that is our time for this panel. Sorry about that. Thanks a lot. And our final group is Chris. Paul. Paul, from Mayor Chamber. All right. Okay, your first question from the Chamber is industrial land. The availability of it is dwindling in Metro Vancouver. How can Coquitlam protect and make best use of its scarce industrial land? Okay, so industrial land, as we've all heard, is very important. Good high-paying jobs. It's scarce. How do we make best use of it? We'll start down there with Councillor Zerrell.
Thank you very much, Mike. I guess the quick answer would be that we don't rezone it. It's important that we keep the current industrial land that we have and we don't put residential units on it. So right now we are looking at the Fraser Mills application. It's coming up soon. And we need to make sure that Fraser Mills remains an area where we'll have employment, not just residential. So that would be the quick answer is let's not rezone the stuff that we have for residents.
Thank you.
Not much to argue with that answer, I would agree. I think the first step is we have to stop rezoning our industrial land for other uses. Yes, we have an affordability crisis when it comes to housing in our city. There are other ways to address it without destroying or rezoning industrial land and commercial space. If we can stop that, it might stop the root of the problem with regards to losing our industrial land base. And the second thing is, what can we do with it? I think the best way to address that issue is listen more to the business community in our city. Mandating something from council, what best to do with our industrial land, is a top-down approach. Let's listen to the business community. They're the ones with the ideas. They're the entrepreneurs in our society. Let's listen to what they think is the best use of that land. We must look to take calculated risks as a city to maybe maximize the value of that land and to maximize the good-paying jobs that would be created by using that land.
Chris.
Well, in addition to all of that, we need to provide a lot more office options because right now a lot of industrial space is being used for office because we don't have a lot of office options. So by providing a lot more office options, we would get actual more industrial land space. As we go further along in time, we're going to have to double up and triple up industrial buildings like they're doing in countries like Japan and China. And we'll have to look at what we've done with the Fraser Mills lands and Beatty. You know, they've tried to ratchet back a little bit on some of their commitments to their number of jobs provided for that industrial land, and we've got to hold them to that.
Okay. Paul.
You guys should ask more controversial questions.
It's coming.
I couldn't agree more with the majority points made there. I'll reiterate though. So number one is zoning of commercial land. I think it was a mistake to move forward as far as we have with the Fraser Mills site. I'm against that. I think we're very fortunate in Coquitlam to have a large chunk of commercial land. And by proportion, that's one of our largest parts of our local economy. We talk about increasing our local economy in Coquitlam. Well, we should preserve our existing local economy first. So that's number one. Number two, there's going to be further pressure in other sites beside the Fraser Mills site, and we have to resist that pressure. And again, enormous pressure to develop certain areas into residential land because of the values associated with that, so we need to resist that pressure. And lastly, we need to have more zoning for commercial space in our residential areas currently. So for example, Coquitlam Town Centre should have far more commercial lease space in the towers than it currently has. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Next question. People want to know about marijuana in Coquitlam. Apparently. So what is your position on marijuana stores in Coquitlam is the question. And we'll start with
This is an issue that I've been asked a lot, knocking on doors in our community the last couple of months. It's prevalent out there. We cannot go down the road of not allowing it to be sold in our city. And the reason for that is it will still be sold in our city. It will only be sold in the black market. We can't do that. That's where unsafe drugs will be sold. That puts your children at further risk. That puts our residents at further risk because we don't know what's in that marijuana. We don't know what's in that drug. We have to regulate it. Now, when it comes to zoning in our city, where should it be zoned? In my opinion, and talking to residents, and there seems to be some agreement, keeping it away from schools, places of worship, and parks seems to be the priority. If we can keep it away from those areas, it doesn't make it very accessible for children to get their hands on it, but yet it still gives an opportunity for adults that want to partake in its consumption, the ability to purchase it. They know what they're purchasing, it's safe, it can be consumed safely, and it's not something that may be a safety or health detriment to our citizens and our residents in Coquitlam. So I think where it should be zoned is away from places of worship, schools and parks, but we can't go down the path where we don't have it zoned at all. That is the wrong way to go.
Chris?
I think the first thing is consultation with the public. We haven't done that yet, and we really need to find out what our community wants and what our residents want. For me, it's safety first. Definitely has to be in locations that make sense, definitely away from schools, rec centers, parks, and all of the sort. We've been told that the demand is being overly hyped, and in a city the size of Coquitlam, perhaps 2 to 3 stores is what will be viable. And I think 2 to 3 stores properly placed, making sure that it's what our residents are comfortable with, would be something that I would be willing to accept.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
This is a great controversial question. The first thing, I think we need more of our specific statistics about how Coquitlam residents feel about this issue. We have lots of national polls, we don't have any local polls. I think it's a unique issue where we have an opportunity as a city to push back against large federal regulation if our local residents want to do that. I disagree with the federal decision to legalize marijuana. The majority of residents I've spoken to in Coquitlam also disagree with that. I haven't spoken with all residents, so again, I want to see the statistics. But because a large part of our identity in Coquitlam is that we're a family suburb, I think the support for marijuana legalization here will be quite low. As a result, from the conversations I've had in the community, I'm against opening stores in Coquitlam. Port Coquitlam and Port Moody look like they're going to proceed, and again, I think that gives us a unique opportunity to differentiate our community. You'll still have very easy access in Port Coquitlam and Port Moody, and the difference is kids don't have cars anymore, and so they can't drive to Poco and Port Moody, and it'll help reduce their use of marijuana.
Councillor Cirillo.
I'm going to agree with Councillor Wilson on this one, is that we do need to do community consultation. We recently did some community consultation about electronic billboards, and I think this is one where we should be reaching out to the community and doing community consultation, because it's going to be here before the election, at least on the recreational. So that goes to my next point, which is, what does it mean by marijuana stores? Are we talking about recreational marijuana stores? Are we talking about medicinal marijuana stores? And the area that I would like us to get ahead of is edibles, and the idea that we will have potentially restaurants, cafes, bistros that will want to serve edibles, and we need to make sure that we're prepared for that as well. So lots more work to be done on this file, but a number of the candidates and Councillor Wilson mentioned consultation. I think we should get there sooner rather than later on that.
Okay, great. Our next question is dealing with Coquitlam's growth. Its population has grown quite a bit over the last few years and scheduled to grow even more in the next 20 years. What infrastructure developments would you prioritize to accommodate this growth that's coming? So what infrastructure developments would you prioritize to accommodate this growth? So if we're fairly quick on this, we can get through 2 questions. So what infrastructure projects? Councillor Wilson.
What we really need is affordable housing, right? We need more subsidized units so that people have the opportunity to ladder up, like it's already been talked about. In addition to that, people are so frustrated with the transportation that we have in our community. More and more traffic comes with more and more development. Much better bus service to get better connections to SkyTrain, to and from where we're going. 10-minute or a bus service every 10 minutes to the SkyTrain stations would not maybe work for everybody, but for those that it would work for, it just takes one more car off the road and makes more space for people. So a lot more affordable housing, much better bus service.
I think we're fortunate we have some of the best public transportation we've ever had in Coquitlam because of the addition of the SkyTrain. I think one thing a lot of people miss is with the advent of electronic cars, there's a chance that car ownership is actually not going to decrease. We could have a very high number of cars on the road in 5 to 10 years that are electric, and the argument against greenhouse emissions does not hold anymore. So we have great public transportation infrastructure in Coquitlam, but we need to work on our roads. Again, I don't know if car usership is actually going to decrease. I would highlight the North Road corridor near Coquitlam and Lougheed Mall. We've done some good improvements there, but more needs to be done. I'm very concerned about the Lougheed corridor that intersects with North Road. I think it needs to go to 3 lanes from the Gallardi exit all the way through near to IKEA. I think that's the single largest road improvement we need in the city of Coquitlam. Excuse me. And that'll be it. Thank you.
Just in time. Benita.
A really hard question. There's so many things with the growth that we have seen. Unprecedented growth in the city of Coquitlam, and a lot of those units that we've built that have fed this growth are empty. So we have a population, but we also have an abundance of housing that's empty, and I'd like to see us do some work on that. But as far as infrastructure goes, I think we need to focus on community centers and gathering spaces. As more and more people go into condos, go into smaller places, we need bigger spaces for them to come out of. So I mentioned it earlier about curling. I was very disappointed that we lost our curling rink. I would want to focus on getting a curling rink back to some capacity, hopefully as a gathering space, but also our rec centers. They can provide daycare. They can also provide pools and rinks. We need to have a place for families to enjoy recreation, especially when housing and cost of living is so high. We need to have spaces where families can have time together and enjoy the community.
Thank you.
It's very important.
Yeah, just to echo the other 3 candidates up here, there are 3 that I think are important. The first one, it has to be housing. More affordable units, being below market rentals, purpose-built senior homes. That population growth is not only just going to be young people, it's going to be adults, it's going to be seniors. We need places for them to live that are affordable, that are purpose-built for them. It can't just be condo towers everywhere. It has to be more purpose-built senior homes. It's got to be more below market rentals. The second one is the transportation issue. I agree with Chris, and I agree with Paul, and I agree with Benita. Increasing bus services. With more people comes more cars potentially. If we can increase the ability to get around our city with bus services, it can help dent the increase in traffic on our roads. And the last one I would say is parks and recreational facilities. With more people in tighter spaces, they need a place to relax. They need a place to breathe. They need to get out in nature. They need a place to play. I can think of Burke Mountain, Burke Whitlam. These places need recreational centers, and these people in these places need places to go.
Appreciate it. You guys have been quick, so we've got about 1.5 minutes left, so we can do this really quickly. And it's, what is your top priority for the city in the next 4 years? What is your top priority for the city in the next 4 years? So we'll be really quick on this one. I think we started last, so it's Paul's turn. Go ahead.
Thank you. I think our top priority by far needs to be changing our current development plan. We largely build 1- and 2-bedroom condos. This is not meeting the housing needs of our community. I think the last 4 years, it's very clear what we've built in Coquitlam, and we need to change what we've done drastically. Specifically, we not only need more 3-bedroom...
Paul, I'm going to cut you off there. Just real quick,
For sure.
top priority, you've got
Sorry.
10 seconds after that. Benita.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. So very quickly, let me first start by saying that no matter what my top priority is, if there isn't 5 votes on council, it won't happen. So let's not forget that. I think that the top priority is to include the residents of Coquitlam in the decisions going forward. I think what I'm hearing on the doorstep is a lot of residents feel that this growth that happened against some of their will, and I think there's an opportunity for us to include all residents in the next chapter of growth in the city of Coquitlam.
Deeper consultation and more transparency at City Hall. We need to get out into the community more. We need to talk to residents more to see what they want to have done in their neighborhoods and their community. It cannot be a top-down approach with council telling you what's going to happen in your neighborhood and what's going to happen in your community. We have to get out there, we have to listen to you, we have to hear you, and we have to represent your wishes on City Council.
Thanks, Rob. Chris.
better development for what we really need in our city. We're not getting what we really need in our city. We've heard the problem with three-bedroom units and condos. We've heard about transportation issues. We've heard about daycare issues, affordable housing issues. We must ask for more and demand more from developers in new development.
Okay, thank you. And thanks to our candidates. Thank you very much. This concludes the debate portion. Now we're going to get each candidate. Benita, over, I'm going to start with you. We're going to go in reverse order right now of what we started. Each candidate gets 30 seconds for a closing statement, so you got to keep your elevator pitch really tight. And again, politicians, this is tough. Stephanie, you reset for 30 seconds. You good to go? Okay, first up.
It's kind of funny that I'm first up because I'm always at the bottom with the Z, so today, the hardest one you gave me at first. I want to close tonight just by saying there's two things that I haven't had a chance to talk about, and I want to mention them, is the idea that I will be pushing in the next term, if I'm elected, to get an open budget. We have our deliberations done in closed meetings. The individualized votes on the budget items are enclosed. I don't think it's appropriate, and I think that if we had an open budget deliberation process and votes, our votes would be very different. And I also wanted to say that I strongly believe that we should have a local procurement piece in our procurement policy. October 20th, start at the bottom of the ballot.
This October 20th, Coquitlam residents have the opportunity to elect a city councillor with a fresh perspective, professional experience, and a commitment to serving the interests of Coquitlam's families as opposed to special interest groups. Our city requires a holistic approach, one that aims to make housing more affordable and livable, furthers the opportunities for businesses to increase revenues and reduce costs, and do the often overlooked need for finding qualified employees that are motivated and productive. I encourage all of you to vote for myself, Robert Mazzarolo, on October 20th for City Councillor. Thank you.
Paul.
Thanks. I didn't get to talk much about this development this evening, the way the questions went. So I wanted to reiterate the number one thing for me is changing our development plan, not marginally, massively. We're building 80% 1- and 2-bedroom condos, and we need to flip that on its head. Coquitlam needs to be a community for families, first-time buyers, renters. That's who Coquitlam needs to be a community for. And I just want to thank everyone for their time this evening and for coming out to the event.
Chris.
Again, thank you all for coming out. I believe all of you deserve councillors that you can trust, that you can believe in, that you can respect, and that are going to fight for the issues that are important to you. And I believe that my track record shows that I'm somebody you can trust and rely on to represent you well. So I'm asking for your vote on October 20th. Thank you.
Ian.
I'm so glad to see so many people out here. This is, as I said, the number one issue is getting people out there and excited about voting on October 20th. Oh my gosh, bring a friend, get your friends to bring friends. I've got a few years of experience working on governance boards, following the Carver model of governance, working with staff, not meddling in their affairs, but making high-level decisions. And I am a huge fan of consensus decisions, so working with the experts who will be elected with me on October 20th to make sure that we get a full, balanced voice for Coquitlam. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Terry.
First of all, I want to thank the Chamber for hosting tonight. I want to thank everybody for being here. A goal of mine, if I get reelected, is to increase the proactive citizen engagement out there and decrease the level of reactive engagement on changes in your neighborhoods. So I want to commend all of you for being proactive and being engaged in your community and being here. We are all very fortunate that we live and work and vote in Coquitlam. And I would love to have your vote to continue working and keeping Coquitlam the amazing city that it is on October the 20th. Thank you.
It's tough keeping 30 seconds, isn't it? Nicola?
Thank you to the Chamber for hosting and for all of you for being here. 26% of people in Coquitlam showed up at the polls in the last election, which means voter apathy won. So please get out and tell your friends to vote in this election. Visit nicholasburling.me to check out my platform, and I hope that I have your vote on October 20th. I'll keep that short and sweet. Thank you.
Trish?
Thank you to the Chamber and to all of you for coming out tonight. As a businesswoman, a mentor, a wife, a mother, and a fellow resident, I bring forth a wide range of experience and skill set that can definitely benefit the community for me being in council. When elected, I will make it my mission to be a candidate of the people. As a conscious politician, I will always operate on facts. I will consider all opinions and views before I make up my mind.
Thanks, Trish.
On October 20th, vote my
Thank you,
vote
Trish. Save the mayor's for last. I know you're anxious. I know you're anxious.
I don't know you're going to do that, Mike.
I don't know.
I want to thank the Chamber and I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. 4 years ago, I stood on this stage and I asked for your vote so we could bring more financial acumen to City Hall. In that 4 years, I've championed changes that resulted in over $700,000 annually in improved investment income. And this year alone, we found $6 million in capital projects that we're able to pay for without increasing your taxes by the corresponding 4%.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you. Rob?
Mine went up by 46%.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Tonight's turnout renews my faith in democracy. My Coquitlam has always been an affordable and inclusive community. For the people I've talked to on the doorsteps, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. If we work together, Coquitlam can be an affordable and inclusive community where the voices of the people matter. If what I've said resonates with you, I would ask for your support on October 20th. Please vote Rob Bottas, but more importantly, get out and vote. 26% sucks.
Craig?
Thank you for coming out tonight and for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about the issues that are important to our residents. There wasn't a lot of time tonight, so please go to my website, craighodge.ca, to learn more about my track record and my platform. I have proven that I bring new ideas to the council table and I can work with my colleagues to advance them. I advocated for developers to pre-wire parking spaces for electric cars, a program to revitalize 12 older parks in our neighborhoods, changes in our garbage collection schedule to reduce wildlife conflicts. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Ben?
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Mike. Thanks to the Tri-City Chamber of Commerce once again for hosting tonight. We've heard from a number of worthy candidates tonight. I've taken a lot of notes and I've learned a lot. For my part, I come from the business world. In the business world, you keep costs under control or you perish. I understand the value of a dollar and the need to stick to budgets. As a business person and a taxpayer, I'll bring those values to City Hall. Vote for Ben Craig on October 20th. Thank you.
Steve.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us today. I must say, throughout my entire work and volunteer life, I've worked to build consensus and also create an ability to bridge communities. And I promise to take that approach, a balanced approach, one that takes a holistic view, that listens, so that I could be your voice at City Hall. Thank you.
Daryl?
With a bachelor's degree in finance and 8 years experience as a commercial banker, I am poised to lead this city into the future. I am a lifelong resident and am and raising my young family here. I've been volunteering as a youth sports coach since I was 15 because I love giving back. I have been and will continue to be a strong advocate for families in Coquitlam. I encourage you to visit my website for my full platform. And remember, I'm a stickler for the 3 R's: responsible development, parks and recreation, and restoring communities.
Brent.
Batting cleanup.
Not quite. Not quite.
Not quite, on the council floor.
Yeah, true that.
You know, what I didn't mention to everybody, my other job is I'm a bus driver. The bus driver I see the range of the challenges people in Coquitlam, from the poorest to the people that are the high income earner. What I'm really proud about my time on council was 3030 Gordon, Cold Weather Plant Program, the YWCA's Transitional House for Women and Women. We just opened up a transitional house for women to Leith Coombe. Looking at the service for those in need, but also looking at the service for our kids in sport and our seniors. So once again, on October 20th, please vote Brent Asmussen to continue this work. Thank you.
Now, who are our two candidates running for mayor? Stuart.
Thank you very much. At all candidates meetings, we often hear easy solutions to complex problems. And we heard them tonight. We heard some great ideas as well. I want to applaud Mr. Gamar for his passion, his communication skills, and for jumping in. We're both fathers. I've got 4 children. We both want our children to be able to live in this community. That's been my career, my experience is housing. Our housing affordability strategy is working. My passion is also in mental health. We need to solve that challenge with the province, and we have to get rid of the stigma. In the end, we want you to get out and vote. Please.
Thank you, Richard. Bill.
There's something going on right now in Coquitlam. We're hearing the voices of people who are ready for a change. Our campaign is bringing people of the greater good, or for the greater good of our city. People who didn't realize that they actually have a voice up until now. I stand here to tell you that we hear you loud and clear. When problems require solutions, we have a choice. Stay on the sidelines or get in the fight. When my girls ask me, what did you do? I will say, I stood up and fought. I hope that you will be at my side. Thank you.
In this day and age with social media and all the stuff that's going on out there, I think anybody who puts their name up to run for office deserves our respect and a big round of applause.